Welcome to Bunch Formation, the newest college football podcast. My name is Chris Vanini. I am still here in my parents' basement, about to talk about a video game. I know how that sounds. It's fine. He is David Ubben. We are back for our two-part episode. This is part two. This is
deep dive
about the college football video game, deep dive into the gameplay, which is now, we're able to talk about it. The embargo has passed. So part one of this podcast, we talk about actual football. We talk about the playoff, what's going on there. We talk about Diego Pavia, Elite 11 quarterback names, and some other stuff. So if you haven't, that should also be on your feed. If you're not subscribed to the podcast feed, the video game people who I know just come for the video game stuff. We see the numbers. I see you. Please subscribe to the podcast on your feed, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. I've got everything everywhere. We love talking about this video game, but we also love talking about actual college football. So we try to cover all of it.
And leave us a 5-star review too.
Yes, please leave us a 5-star review. We read some new ones in the last episode. We read all of that stuff. Since we're talking about the video game here, be nice to David Ubben, YouTube commenters who sometimes get upset at things David says or if he interrupts me. It's cool. But, Dave, we can say it. You have played the video game.
I have.
I have played the video game. I played it in Orlando at the test event, which we know about. And then we also played the beta version. You and I both got a copy of the beta. We played 2 weekends ago. It was not a final version, but we were able to play Road to the CFP and Dynasty.
Yeah.
We cannot talk about those two specifically yet. Dynasty, I think embargo is like next week, I think. But we can talk about gameplay and playing the actual game. You and I even set up a cross-play Dynasty to play each other one time.
Yeah, that was the only way to do it because you couldn't do play a friend on the beta.
You couldn't do, play a friend was not there.
I had questions about how many people figured out how to backdoor playing against somebody that you know, because it's like nobody's going to really dig into a Dynasty, with the beta because you only have like 2 days. But hey,
Yeah. So we're grateful to EA Sports for giving us that opportunity. We gave them our feedback. Believe we're going to write something, our thoughts on Dynasty as well when we're able to talk about that. But we're just talking about gameplay here, the actual game. Early, EA Sports released the whole the blog deep dive into explaining everything. So we're going to give our thoughts on all of that. Quick early impressions I had playing it. Quarterback accuracy was a problem, but I was assured by the EA Sports folks that it was just an older model. It had been fixed. It was easier when I played it in Orlando than later in beta, but the beta was an older model. Running the ball, a lot more fun. The graphics, really good. A lot more just way tackles look and stuff like that. Even more looking realistic stuff. Dave, before we get into some of the individual stuff, early impressions you had.
The physics-based tackling is very different and very fun. I loved it. I felt like it felt a little more real, a little bit. You can kind of, like, to some degree, you're always going to have animations, right? Tackling animations ever since like the 2001 game, ever since like, I think Madden 2000 might have been the last one that didn't really have like tackle animations. You like dive and your guy knocks him over. So we're always going to kind of have that, but this felt very realistic. There's a lot more broken tackle animations that were really cool that I hadn't seen in a game before. And when you're playing it for the first time, it jumps out at you. Eventually you get kind of desensitized to it, but you're like, whoa, I've never seen that before. And like, it's kind of animations that seem similar to stuff you've seen before. And then all of a sudden he's like squirting out of this tackle. And if you've watched college football, that happens a lot. I felt it was very true to the game. That jumped out to me. Felt like playing with the stadium pulse as advertised. It's even harder.
Yes.
It was hard last year. It's even harder this year.
Let's start there. Home field advantage. Very, very noticeable. I mean, it was noticeable last year, but even more so now. The kicking when you're kicking on the road, depending on where you're at, the kicking meter, like the thing that swings, like disappears. And so you have no idea unless you kind of had a good timing of it. It's a lot tougher. Even more so for night games, it's bigger, and rivalry games, it's bigger. So you can definitely feel it, especially at the toughest places to play. Stadium pulse, big impact.
It was to the point where, like, I think as I put together schedules in my dynasty, I might be slightly gun shy to schedule road games. I always, when I was doing it in the old days, I would always do like a big opener at like MetLife Stadium on the old game. And then I wouldn't mind going on the road. And then last year you went on the road and it was like, whew, like this is hard. But this year it was even harder. And like half the time when the crowd's going crazy, like all your guys have the little snowflake on them where like they're cold and everything's difficult. And you kind of got to settle people down. I was running like a lot of low risk, quick release plays to try and like settle it down. And guess what, Chris? That's college football. People do that a lot. It's like, let's get our quarterback in rhythm. Let's take the crowd out of the game. I think in real football, that's a thing. And I think you just could do that naturally in the old games by just playing your game. I think you're going to have to be more deliberate in like, we've got to get the crowd out of this game so that we can run our normal stuff. And you're going to have to do that deliberately. And I like that because that's college football.
But also you can silence the crowd quicker and better than you did before. Like if you get a big play on the road, that stadium pulse is you're gonna notice it less so. So which I think is pretty cool. Let's talk playbooks. You love this.
Very excited.
I love this. 2,800 new plays, 45 new formations. I was just like, when I was in Orlando, I didn't have the time to like really go through and dig into playbooks and say what I like. But when we had the beta, and even that wasn't complete.
No, and we didn't even have very enough time to do that. But playing with a few teams, like I was like, oh man, this is incredible.
You take some time with a couple of teams, and you loved in particular the Penn State playbook.
Yeah, so Kotelnicki was at Penn State last year, and it was a pretty good playbook. But they didn't have a mobile quarterback, obviously, in Drew Aller, so I didn't really use them that much last year. But our friend and former colleague, Max Olson, was also on the beta. He alerted us. He was like, Kotelnicki, you guys got to check this out. Some of the stuff they had in there, like that little, I don't even know what that motion is really called. Like the Chiefs, I think, popularized it, like the corn dog action.
Is that the boomerang? Is that called the boomerang motion?
It might be. I don't know what it's called, but there's a lot of that stuff. The stuff that they packaged, like, so they had Wildcat stuff, but it was like they had a Wildcat that was packaged in with like their backup quarterback who was a little bit faster, or you can run Wildcat with your two running backs. Like if you have two running backs and run zone read with those two guys, I think you could do that manually in the game last year, but this is like a literal package. But then there were other stuff packaged off of that. There was like a zone read, like throwback, where like you could run like a power read to one side, but then stop and throw it to your other running back on the other side. It didn't work that well, but I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that in a college football game. That's awesome. I'm sure that's in Kotelnicki's playbook. So the Kotelnicki one was great. I mean, I didn't get a chance to do a ton. It peaked at our guy Scott Abel's playbook, the Rice coach. I just think the possibilities here are endless. Like there's a lot more stuff in the orbit motion stuff, which you kind of had to practice that a little bit last year because it wasn't in the older games. Obviously, that was kind of a newer thing in college football. But the number of stuff that you can do was awesome. I was so excited.
Here's some of that that EA Sports announced. Jet power read toss, counter bash, some of these run plays. They got a bunch of different motions, like we said, reload, bounce, escort, boomerang. There's double motions as well. There's gadget stuff. Like you could, like Tyler Warren, you could do different things with him. Have him go under center for a snap and do some stuff. So if you have, it's too bad college football doesn't have Travis Hunter and Tyler Warren this year.
Yeah.
Because those were guys you could do a lot of different stuff with. So I'm curious what kind of players this year we find out do that. Penn State, I didn't actually find this one, but EA Sports said that like a swinging gate type of thing.
I saw there was a formation with some offensive linemen outside. I ran a quick screen and got like 6 yards and stuff. My only concern with this is I don't want some of these to be overpowered. You know, they had the double reverse pass that was like kind of glitchy on last year's game. Like if you play a guy online and they're running that, you're like, well, you're a bad human being. But I like the gadget stuff that's just pure misdirection. Like one of my favorite plays last year was running – you'd hit people with the F-Twins over jet pass. Very popular play on last year's game. Really good blocking. You hit them with that once, but then you'd have other stuff packaged in. You had a little simple inside zone package off of that. One of my favorite plays was you'd hit them with that jet pass, and then you get them overplaying it like so that they are taking a linebacker and like you're not running that on me again, and then you'd run the cross screen the opposite direction. I mean, half the time if you've run that jet pass at any formation previously, then you've got 4 offensive linemen on like 2 cornerbacks and like a linebacker on the side. It worked perfectly. That's the kind of gadget stuff I want. That's like misdirection, that like you're actually fooling somebody, not like overpowered plays where the AI is like, oh no, it's a play action. I gotta like fall down and like start shaking or something.
Yeah. They also have. I didn't play this one, but the Ole Miss Wildcat Deuce Wing, where you could basically snap it to a defensive tackle like they did.
Yeah, that's the JJ Pegues package right there,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes. And then, as we mentioned, we said Rice was going to be one of the teams we wanted to play with most on this game. They said they have 11 different wingback sets out of the Rice's.
I messed with it. I didn't really embrace it, but listen, I spent about probably an hour and a half building my playbook on last year's game. I might spend like a whole day building my playbook on this one because it's going to be
a lot.
There's going to be a
lot
of stuff in there.
I did this. What I did a lot of, honestly, with the beta was I would start a dynasty with a team and then just go into practice mode.
Mm-hmm.
I got to get in the lab and spend some time and figure out what plays are in here, figure out what works, how to use it. Like when I get the game, that's what I'm going to be doing. It's like you kind of got to test out and find out what works. I don't like to do that live. Like I don't want to figure it out on the go. Like you got to repetition.
I mean, the playbook stuff speaks to me because it like this game has something for everybody, obviously, but everybody gets something else out of this game. People love like building the dynasties and recruiting. My dark secret, Chris, I don't do recruiting on the game. What I like about this game is the chess match aspect of it. This is why I like playing online more than I like playing the computer. It was much improved last year. The AI was really smart and they would keep you on your toes a little bit. But the chess match portion of it is why I like this game, because it is like if I'm playing you online, it's part of why I didn't like the 3-minute quarters is I like figuring out what are you doing to me? How are you stopping or not stopping what I am doing? And how can I counter? That's football. The chess aspect of it, the mental game of it is what I really like about the game. And with these new playbooks, you're just adding more pieces to the board, more stuff that you can do and make people prepare for. And it's super, super fun. The playbooks is my number one thing on this game that I'm most excited about, especially having played with it a little bit.
I am not looking forward to what you're going to put in a custom playbook.
My playbook, I'm already salivating. My playbook last year was good. It's going to be so much better this year.
Like you're probably not going to be going up against Rice online very much is the thing. But if you can when you bring the custom playbook into Play a Friend, that's when you can kind of
that's why I'm excited, because this year we are going to have that cross-play dynasty that we mentioned, and you can use your custom playbooks in there. And believe me, whoever I end up, all I can guarantee is that we're going to have a quarterback with some speed, because the quarterback run game is a big part of like you have to kind of have that in your holster. Yeah. So, but other than that, you can kind of work with it. So,
yes. Another aspect here I found interesting. The height of your quarterback matters. And they showed us visually how they made this when I was in Orlando, and they had these like red things pop up. And at first I'm like, this looks like the vision cone from Madden back in the day. And they were like, this is not that. It's like, okay, good. I know some people like it. Most of us didn't. But what it is, and I noticed this playing, a lot more balls batted down at the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you're trying to throw it straight over a defensive lineman and your quarterback's not that tall, it's a good chance your pass might get knocked down. So that's real. Like that is realistic. The batted ball at the line of scrimmage in football is my least favorite thing in all of football. I hate it. It's a good defense because it's a good defense. It's a defensive stop with no action. It's so boring. I almost wish it was like illegal, because it's just inherently, I'm like, oh man, he's throwing. Like when someone drops it back and they're going to throw, you get a little excitement of like, oh, like something could happen here. And then they throw and you're like, here we go. And then it just gets batted down. You're like, oh, I don't like that swing of emotions. I don't like batted balls.
I don't know if this was in the beta. I saw it. It was interesting. When I read it in the deep dive, I was like, oh, because I didn't see any of that. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, or maybe I was just playing with tall quarterbacks, but I'm interested to see what that kind of looks like and how that plays.
Yes. Also, they said there's a larger gap between elite quarterbacks and bad quarterbacks.
Needed.
especially when you get down to like the FCS guys and stuff like that, so you can feel it. Which, I mean, that was one of the best parts of college football 25 was like the great teams and the bad teams. Like you could tell that is what college football. It's not Madden where everybody's pretty much the same. Like, that is the fun and the chess piece of college football. Offensive line blocking is better and smarter. I notice a lot. You see it a lot more. The play art. You can see where the offensive linemen are going downfield and who they're going for, which is cool. You can also change it. You can change blocking targets a bit. I couldn't quite figure out how
I
to
don't
do
think
that,
I knew that. I may not have messed with it, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to mess with them, but EA Sports said you could do that. And so you could leave somebody free, you know, like on a screen or something like that that wasn't initially there. So I haven't played with that very much, but I know some people who really get into that will probably do that. Last one, offensively. Again,
we need to hit screens really quick because I noticed this when I was playing.
Yeah.
So on the 25 game, on basically every Madden game I've ever seen, there's a delay before you can hit the screen.
Yeah.
You snap it and that you can't physically throw it for like a couple seconds. Sometimes you can have screens blow up. I noticed that you can throw a screen like as soon as you get the ball. It's going to mess up the play if you don't time it right. If you just like snap it and then as soon as your running back leaves, you're like throwing it to him or like throwing a shovel pass. It's going to mess up all your blocking assignments. It's not going to work. But I like that, like, well, if this play breaks down or if they blitz or if something happens, like I can at least like get rid of it, basically. I like that addition because there have been times if you throw a screen and they blitz you right or time it right, then like literally the play is dead. So I'm glad they changed the screens. I noticed that very quickly.
Yes. And last one on offense, running the ball, even more fun. And when the beta ended, I immediately went back to 25 to try to like compare some things. And not all of it was the same because again, like quarterback accuracy was not fully tweaked, but running the ball, I could feel it. Like even more so, if you hit the hole, you're rewarded. And if you have the right leverage, you will break more tackles. There were more broken tackles in this than I'd experienced in CFB 25, which I think will be a lot of fun. And that gets us into the defense.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty famously, playing defense was very hard.
Number one critique of last year's game, I would say, and a fair critique.
For some of us like me, you could literally never get a stop. I'm not that great. So we'll start off with the first topic, which you love, which is pursuit angles.
Oh, yeah. Noticeable. Last year, the computer guys, whatever, the AI, whatever you want to call it, the pursuit angles were horrific. I don't know what happened because that was not really a problem in past games, but it was a problem in 25. That, I think, I'm not going to just say it's been fixed, but based on my experience in the beta, it was much, much, much better. There's no reason why you should be able to get the corner on a guy that's 15 yards downfield or again, the pursuit angles were messed up. Much, much better in this year's game. And on top of that, it was just smarter defenders. Now we'll see kind of how that plays out with defending the pass and some of these custom zones. I didn't really get a chance to mess with a lot of that. I was kind of just trying to get a feel for the game rather than like trying to perfect like being good at the game, I guess. But
right.
I think that you can do that. And then of course, we'll maybe get into this later, but the route commit stuff I think could be a game changer for some of these like bad humans online.
Yes, we'll get into that in a minute. Physics-based tackling, like we said, there's more of it. But also, like I said, a lot more broken tackles. Like you gotta tackle a guy right. And you see that. And while theoretically that makes it easier for the offense, I know, but like it felt more real playing it defensively. So I like that. And a big one that you really liked, user strip.
I'm a big user strip guy.
Yes, you are.
It's super fun. Last year it had its moments, kinda, but it wasn't that effective. I would still do it if you've got enough defenders where it's not that risky. Obviously, you don't do it in the open field. I played the game for 2 weekends. For a weekend, I probably had 3 or 4 instances where I had a linebacker like just reach in and smack it, and the ball like comes popping out, and just like the user strip thing came up. That was not happening on last year's game. The user strip would happen as part of a tackle, but the user strip where the running back or whoever the ball carrier is just like still running was not something that happened on last year's game. It was pretty realistic. It was much more effective. We'll see if it's as effective on the actual game, but it probably needs to be more effective than it was last year. But the peanut punch is a big part of my defensive strategy. I enjoyed using it.
Yes. Also, I guess this one's more offense, but I noticed the stiff arms are better. Use your stiff arms. You get the ball in the right hand and use this. If you time it right, I was getting a lot more stiff arms I liked. Also, quarterback throws while they're being hit are going to be worse. And this one I noticed a lot, which is more realistic. I mean, a lot of people got frustrated if a guy is being wrapped up or he's about to be and he puts off a good throw. Those were not as good, but that one is by design.
Real quick, I need to hit on
Yes.
when we were talking about pursuit angles that I forgot to hit on. I knew I was forgetting something. Open field tackling. Last year, if it's one-on-one in the open field, good night. You're not making the tackle.
Yes.
It wasn't overpowered this year where it's hard to finish a run, but you had a chance, it felt like, to make a tackle and not just have a guy, put you on skates constantly where you can't make a tackle in the open field one-on-one. It's still hard as it should be, but it felt like to me, they tipped the scales a little bit where it's a little more doable. I loved it.
Stunts and twists. I used this a little bit. I didn't notice it being that effective, but it's interesting. It's more.
I might toy with it. I'll see.
What you do is basically when you click and hold the play button, whatever play you choose, you click and hold, it'll then pop up a screen and give you options. So you can do that. I liked it.
They have this in the play art for years. They've had this, but being able to customize it is new. So I'll have to mess with it and see strategically if you do it at interesting times, if you can mess with the offensive line. I like that we have it. More things where you have control are always good. Whether or not it works, we'll see.
Along those lines, block steering by the defensive line. This is really cool. So if you are playing with a defensive lineman, which I sometimes do, we know our good buddy Antonio does. You do not, David. But if you're playing with a defensive lineman and you're going outside and you see it's a running play, you can use the joystick to turn instead of just trying to swim or get by the guy, you can steer the block maybe into that run gap and force the running back into doing something. Really cool. Like that's just a great, again, another little like detail. That's football. Like that is a really cool little thing. If you play on the D line, will be fun. So let's get into now custom zone. This one for the hardcores, I think is going to be a big thing. So it's basically like the wide receiver, you can do the custom routes and the stems and do all kinds of stuff. You can now do a lot more with defensive backs. That include I toyed around with this. I didn't like get it locked down, but just to see it. So similarly, while you're doing the pre-play stuff, if you're controlling a DB, you have different options of different kinds of zones. You can just change the play you're running as the DB, and that's fun. And then you also have this thing called it's basically like route commit. And you'll press, I think it was R1, and you can like jump a route or shade or something like that, kind of get more leverage. So what do you kind of move around on the field on defense, right? Is this something you
I'm a big lurker, but ultimately what route commit I think can do is the people that I don't like are the people that find like 2 or 3 plays online and just spam them. There are some plays that are overpowered, sure. These people are psychopaths. They need to be removed from society. Let's get them out of here. Let's just round them up, and then they are not allowed to play online anymore. To me, I'm like, how is that fun? Because again, we talked about this earlier. To me, the chess match piece of it is fun. To me, you're like a Boston Dynamics robot, just like hunting stuff. It's like, what are you doing? You're just running 2 plays, and then based on what I do, you might have a check or 2 off of that. Well, if you're doing that and I can figure out what your checks are, but I can't control all 11 guys, if you keep throwing a comebacker on the left side, guess what? Well, my corner over there is going to be hovering over that comebacker. If you just keep running Nick Harbor on streaks and somehow he's beating a cover 4 because you have some gimmicky thing that you drew up, well, guess what? Now I'm going to put a man on him and he's going to be waiting for the fly. So I think you can help fix some of that stuff. I'm very excited about that potential. And you can call me a gimmicky if you want, because this is not football, Chris. But sometimes when I am in the red zone in game against a human, it doesn't really work against the computer, but against humans I will. I drop 11 because you can have your defensive lineman spy. Now if I can get those defensive linemen to run like, like just some sort of zone coverage underneath. Like that would be pretty cool. Because I drop 11, like I will mix it in very infrequently. I only do it in the red zone, and people freak out and they'll throw picks because they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And obviously, if they try to roll out, well, the offensive line stays in the pocket, and you can hit the R3, and then they come flying up on you. It works great. So
I don't know if you can do that for linemen. I didn't try it out, so I'm not sure.
We'll see.
If you can, there you go. So that's very fun. Similarly, again, I think you'll love this one too. There's more safety adjustments. You can adjust their width, and you can adjust the depth and the width, like how close they are together.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
I mean, generally, I'm going to bring my safeties up because I'm going to make you make hard throws. I'm not going to give you the easy stuff, and I want to stop the run number one, especially in these games where a lot of people like to run the ball. The safety stuff I love. You could kind of do that based on some of the checks that you could do previously, but you couldn't do it in a real customized way. But if I can have my DBs just in standard coverage, not in bump and run, just cover, but have my safeties come up, I love that. You couldn't really do that previously. Again, customization, coaching, all that stuff, I love it. So I'm very excited about this.
There are more defensive formations like offensive, a lot of nickel stuff. You can read it in the deep dive. The gap assignments are clearer as well for linebackers and stuff, which will be good. And a big thing they emphasized when we were in Orlando was the ability to coverage, the ability to disguise coverages, which is your whole thing. And you can delay shifts in blitzes and show some guys blitzing, but not everybody. Like they really emphasize the ability to disguise coverages on defense, which I'm still working on. You're probably going to have a field day with this.
Yes, I love it. And the one thing that they've also been hitting on that I thought they didn't fix it completely, but the no eyes interception, in the deep dive, they called it the Willie Mays interception.
Yes.
I didn't see a ton. Maybe it's just because it's been so bad on previous Maddens, and to some degree, that literally was part of why I stopped playing Madden, is there was too much of that. I thought that I didn't see a ton of that on last year's game. Am I just forgetting stuff or?
I didn't see it as much, but I didn't throw deep all that much either. But they did show us some examples. They showed us the example of the old game and it was a Notre Dame, Ohio State game, interception with the person not looking. And then they showed it the second time where where the defensive back is turning. And you have to kind of have turned to be able to do that. And so DBs should no longer get those INTs, and you kind of have to, as a DB, make a decision if you're going to go for the SWAT or the INT attempt. It's kind of more of an emphasis on that. You'll have less.
So were we talking about corners downfield? I did see that. Are we talking about corner? I was talking more
for the
linebackers lurking. Okay, that seems fair. That makes more sense because in the old games, the linebackers would just be like,
the linebacker
ridiculous picks. Now, if we're talking about the corners, I did see a lot of that last year, and that seems fair. But we talked about this in the previous episode. It was weird to me that intercepting was more effective than swatting. Because on the old games, if you were in position and you swatted, lights out. You were not going to have that ball get by you. I stopped even trying to swat on deep balls because you would give up catches even when you're in perfect position. And I started intercepting, and that was way more effective. And that did not feel true to the sport to me.
That is the ratio I think they are trying to change. They also said there should be fewer bad drop interceptions. The ones that should be obvious INTs and the guys don't drop, there were a real problem back in the old game.
Yeah.
Now those should be. I didn't really experience it, so I can't speak to it yet. But they say
it happens from time to time.
Should happen. By the way, we play. Oh yeah, that game we played. You threw.
It was
4 interceptions, 4 or 5 interceptions.
I was a lot.
Got sacked 10 times.
9 times. It was a problem. Avery. Well, it was like fake because they didn't have the roster.
They were not the real
fake Avery.
Finalized players. Was the other part of it. It wasn't really Avery Johnson back there, and some of the stats weren't exactly right. So we're not making any judgments on the quality of the players we played with because those are not fine. Those were not finalized.
Yeah, I think that goes to the quarterback accuracy and trying to do too much and trying to play this year's game like last year's game and the adjustment. There's always like for our cross-play dynasty, we need to give it a month where
Yeah.
people can kind of play. It takes a little bit to get used to the game. So it was frustrating. That speaks to some of the quarterback accuracy stuff. I'm not that worried about it if they're saying they're going to fix it, but it was the combination of that plus frustration plus like trying to be careful, and then I didn't have time to be careful, and it was a frustrating game.
We'll have a review episode along with review coverage on The Athletic. We'll do a review episode of the game when we're allowed to do that, but we should do a periodic check-in episode. Like let's review the game like a month later, like 3 months later, to kind of see how that's going. Because we couldn't really cover that on The Athletic, just because our jobs, real football going on, and they didn't want us to keep writing about the game during the season. But for this show, like we should do that. Like there was stuff that came out later, tweaks that were made, and we never really got back into on the old podcast. So I think we should do that on this show. Almost done here with the new stuff. The big one, substitutions, auto subs, formation subs, dynamic subs. There's a lot. The one they're really emphasizing is the dynamic subs, which is in the game, you hit the D-pad and you can scroll through your guys and see their wear and tear level and pick just one guy to go out for the next play. Like, which is really nice if you don't want to have to use a pause to get into it, which is nice. So that'll make that easier. That's the one they're really leaning onto. I'll see how much people use it. I think the big one people are going to use is the formation subs. Yeah. That's what we were waiting for back in the day. That's the one you were having trouble with at Kansas State, because you'd want certain running backs in certain formations. Now you're going to be able to set all that up.
I like some of these dynamics, all this stuff. I like it. I want to see how it works before. I like the thought of it. I don't know how it works, and I want to mess with it and see how much I actually use it. Because I some of that's going to be contextual, and if you're playing a team that's just running super up tempo, I might do that with my edge rushers. But generally, it's going to be more of a running backs thing. That's like your
because also like 3-minute quarters, like you're not. Unless you're taking a lot of hits, you're not getting into the wear and tear as much as you are in Dynasty or some of these other things. And wear and tear will be bigger in Dynasty. We can't talk much about I think I already said that, but we'll talk more about Dynasty when we can do that. But wear and tear, they love how that went last year, that they're adding it to Madden and a lot of that stuff. Because like normally, a lot of the times, Madden stuff would come to college football, but they're going the other direction. Like these are two kind of separate things, and they're adding college football stuff to Madden. That tells you how well they
I liked it last year. It was frustrating if they were doing Dynasty and you had like a bad team and your quarterback and stuff was getting beat up. It was hard, but it's
fake Avery Johnson in our game was the numbers were not good. He was wearing and he was tearing. Because of all that.
Well, like Chris, we were talking about this. We talked to Pitt's DC at the coaching convention, and they were talking about like, well, we had like a few offensive linemen, and then our offensive linemen got hurt, and then our quarterbacks started getting hurt because they were taking hits, and then our season got more difficult. It's like, that's college football, wear and tear. The team that's the healthiest at the end of the year is generally the team that wins games. And
yes,
if Marvin Harrison Jr. takes a giant hit and gets knocked out, that affects the game, that affects the season. It is what it is. That's football.
Also, the toughness rating now not only impacts the wear and tear, but also their recovery. A higher toughness will help them recover quicker, which is nicer. And a really cool thing on the wear and tear, this is the only thing they said, I think, about Dynasty in the deep dive, but it's customizable. Like when you go to set up the Dynasty mode now, you have the option to set wear and tear for all kinds of things, for sacks, for hit sticks, for various things. And there's like a slider. You can say, hey, if my guy gets to, it kind of plays into the auto sub too, which is guy at a certain position reaches a certain number, then he's getting taken out, and the computer will do that. So you can like set that stuff all up in Dynasty, which is pretty cool. Last thing, abilities and archetypes. They didn't say a ton here. I think more of this is going to be in Dynasty mode, but there's now battering ram for a running back and hammer for linebacker safeties, which is good. I mean, they've added a lot more of that stuff, which will be pretty cool. Ubben, anything else you wanted to talk about on gameplay?
No, I mean, when we just played beta and we don't know exactly what the real game is going to be like. I'm reserving a lot of opinions because I want to experience the full game and see what that's like. But ultimately, I was excited. It got me more excited for the game. I think it's going to be a really fun thing. I'm excited for our crossplay dynasty. I hope that none of us get divorced as a result of this. It's been I'm playing the beta got me. I was already pretty excited for the game, not to the level that was last year's because it was all the hype and it was new and all that stuff. But I think this is an improvement. It is going to be really fun, and I'm glad it's back in our life. I think people are going to be pleased. I'll be shocked if this is not very well received.
Yes, we don't know the final game. This is not a final review of the game. This is just our impressions of playing a little bit of stuff. But they seem to overall have filled the biggest holes that they knew were there in 25.
Well, their heads are in the right place. Like, execution is one thing, but like, we're trying to make a simulation. We're trying to make it like college football. They're not doing stuff where I'm like, what are you doing? What are you trying to accomplish? It's like, I get it. Everything you're doing, it's like, let's make this more like college football. Let's add cool things. Let's do things that influence how the sport is played. I like that. They're not. You can quibble with the execution of stuff and be like, well, we need to fix this. We need to fix this. And maybe there'll be stuff that we have to do, in patches early on. But I like where their head is at consistently from last year's game and figuring out, okay, what was some of the stuff that we need to focus on from last year? And let's focus on gameplay. Let's tweak gameplay. That's what matters. And I like what they're doing. It made me excited for the game. And the developers obviously understand college football and understand what makes it great. Not just off the field, which was obviously a huge emphasis from last year, but on the field. Diversity of scheme, the gap between talent, and all of those things. I'm excited for it.
Me too. And we will have more, I think, next week when we can talk about Dynasty. I'm more of a Dynasty guy than an online play guy, so
I do both, but I just don't
thoughts?
recruit. I like Dynasty. But honestly, part of it is legitimately with Dynasty this year is I can pause those games. And if we put our kids to bed and they wake up, I was playing a dangerous game last year because I'd play online. And if one of our girls woke up, that's just a loss for me. So sometimes I was not willing to take that gamble. So I played a lot more Dynasty. If it was like, if I knew if somebody wakes up, I'm going to have to go handle it. So I did play a lot of Dynasty last year, probably more than I intended for that reason.
Yeah, so I think that's it for gameplay. EA Sports has released the deep dive stuff and all that stuff. We just kind of wanted to give our thoughts on what it was like playing it, the beta, not the final version. I had a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Again, please subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel, or the podcast, wherever you're listening. bunchformationpod@gmail.com for any feedback you want to give to us guys. This was our 10th episode of the show, David. We've made it to 10. Pretty fun. This is
again, do we get an award for that, or do they have a plaque or anything?
I think we need one of those YouTube, million subscriber things. We're on the road to that.
10 shows, yes.
Yeah. So this was part 2 of a 2-part Friday show. We have another episode should be on your feed about the college football playoff, about Big Ten, SEC, and the drama going on there. We just split this up because we wanted to do the video game thing on its own because of the embargo time and all that stuff. So we will be back next week. We'll have an episode. We're going to talk to a real life college football referee, assuming that the scheduled interview happens. Send us any questions you have for that.
Yeah.
Please continue to follow the show. This has been a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody who's been along for the ride. So, for David Ubben, I'm Chris Vanini. We'll talk to y'all next week. And I realize we need to add this to the show, David. I can't believe we haven't been doing this.
What?
The turnover chain. You always ended the show by talking about the bring back the Miami turnover chain. We needed to bring.
Should we do it? Well, I that was sort of an until Saturday thing, but I guess are we gonna bring it back? I mean, it's not
until
back,
Saturday
so
is no more. So
I didn't know if we were gonna carry it over to the bunch formation. I'm up for it. My stance is still unchanged. I still hold a little bit of resentment to Mario Cristobal for killing the turnover chain. I assume he dropped it in a volcano where it melted down at some point. But I'd like to bring it back.
You've got one. Is it?
I
still
do
on your
have
shelf,
one.
or
It
do
is
we move it?
well. It's currently packed away because our real estate agent, we're trying to sell our house. Our real estate agent said I need to declutter the shelves. I like them cluttered more as a podcast thing.
The
but
turnover
for
chain,
my office thing, the turnover chain
people
is packed away somewhere.
some people probably X'd out of the show before they got to this point, but they should know that the turnover chain is maybe the reason the house hasn't sold yet. Get that out there. People are going to buy that house.
That's a good point, actually. That's a good. I'll ask our real estate agent. If I bring the turnover chain back, will everything in my life simplify?
Yes.
Miami, no national titles since doing away with the turnover chain. Just saying.
Yes. So for the two of us, thanks for listening. And Dave, I'll let you end the show.
Please, please, please bring back the turnover chain. We'll see you next week.